Welcome. If you are joining us today, you are stepping into a conceptual space that really requires you to leave your traditional narrative expectations completely at the door.
Yeah, you really have to recalibrate for this one.
You do.
Yeah.
Because you are jumping into a deep dive on a document that completely bypasses all the usual world-building crutches.
No lore dumps, you heard?
Right, none at all. We are examining a highly specific, intensely visual source document. It's titled Excerpts from Architectural Foundations of the Albatt Universe, Session 1, The Sovereign Foundation.
It's a heavy title.
It is. And our mission today is to decode the visual philosophy locked inside of it entirely for you, because this is not just some preamble.
Yeah.
It's a conceptual blueprint for an entire universe. We are looking at the foundational architecture before a single character breathes or a single plot line even moves. So, okay, let's unpack this, because to truly comprehend a universe, you have to examine the geometry of how its foundation is actually poured.
Setting the high-level context is vital here, I think, because the source material defines this document as the very first visual anchor for the Albatt universe.
Visual anchor.
Exactly. And that phrase, visual anchor, it tells us everything about the intent. Consider how you usually encounter a new fictional reality.
Right, you get a sprawling map.
Yeah, continents, oceans, or maybe a dense prologue detailing a thousands-year history of wars and monarchs.
The classic fantasy opening.
Right. But this document abandons all of that. It establishes the absolute uncompromising laws of this reality strictly through a visual medium.
It's pure imagery.
Yes, it forces the seeker to understand the physics and the philosophy of the cosmos through that imagery alone, laying down the bedrock before the noise of a narrative distracts you.
That choice completely flips the traditional sci-fi or fantasy introduction on its head. You don't start with the protagonist's journey. You start with the cold, hard scaffolding that makes any journey possible in the first place.
It's foundational.
So let's paint the picture of this visual concept for you, capturing the exact aesthetic described in the text. Imagine a perfect square cover.
Just a square.
Yes, and that cover is set against a deep cosmic void. But the text doesn't just call it black space. The colors dictated by the source are midnight blue and obsidian.
That is such a specific choice.
It really is. It describes a dense, heavy darkness.
The word obsidian does a massive amount of conceptual work in that description, because obsidian is volcanic glass.
Formed by rapid cooling.
Exactly. It implies something solid, sharp, and entirely impenetrable. This dark, endless void serves as the ultimate blank canvas because it violently strips away all background noise.
It forces your perspective.
Right. By dropping the viewer into midnight blue and obsidian, the architecture forces your focus entirely onto the elements suspended within it.
It isolates them.
It acts as a visual guarantee that the objects we're about to describe aren't just decorative items floating in the ether. They are the fundamental, undeniable building blocks of this entire existence.
When the backdrop is an absolute void, whatever occupies it becomes the absolute truth.
That is a great way to put it.
It reminds me of walking into a sensory deprivation tank, or perhaps an entirely light-proof anechoic chamber.
Oh, yeah, the sensory shock.
Right, the lack of stimulus is so aggressive that the moment a single light turns on, your brain latches onto it as the only reality.
You'd have nothing else to anchor to.
Exactly.
Yep.
And in this obsidian void, two central icons illuminate the canvas. The document brands them the dual source of the Albatt universe.
The dual source.
Yes. On the left side of this space, there is a stylized golden sun. And the text assigns this sun to a figure named Helios.
The source material pairs Helios with a really weighty title, too, the authoritative king.
The authoritative king.
Yeah. We all know the standard mythological tropes associated with solar imagery.
Life, day, clarity.
Right, the basics. But the text pushes past those basics into something much more rigorous. An authoritative king doesn't just suggest leadership. It suggests absolute, uncompromising order.
It's rigid.
It is a blinding, oppressive level of clarity where everything is categorized, structured, and commanded.
So this pillar represents the rigid framework necessary to keep a newly born universe from collapsing into pure chaos.
Precisely. You need that structure.
But absolute order is a sterile universe. It's a world locked in stasis.
It needs a counterweight.
Exactly. And that's where we look opposite the golden sun, to the right side of the canvas, where a silver crescent moon sits in the void.
The second pillar.
Right, this moon represents the second pillar of the dual source, a figure known as the Mad Philosopher.
The title, The Mad Philosopher, introduces a brilliant friction to the architecture. The text also refers to this figure as the esoteric guide.
The esoteric guide.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we see the defining philosophical tension of the Albatt universe. On the left, the golden sun demands conformity and absolute rule.
And on the right.
On the right, the silver moon offers esoteric, mysterious wisdom. But I want to linger on that word mad for a second.
It's a strong word to use for a guide.
It really is. It implies a perspective that shatters logical paradigms. It suggests that true guidance in this universe requires stepping outside of comfortable, structured thought into something unpredictable.
So the universe demands the known and the unknown simultaneously.
Exactly.
I have to ask, though, why a mad philosopher instead of simply a wise one? I mean, it feels dangerous.
It does feel dangerous.
You have the explicit, rigid command of a king, paired with the unpredictable, esoteric journey of a guide who might be entirely out of their mind.
But that perceived danger is the engine of this reality.
How so?
Well, a simply wise philosopher would just be an advisor to the king. They'd be subordinate. A mad philosopher represents a force that cannot be tamed by the king's authority.
So it's a true duality of equals.
Exactly. The architecture requires this volatile partnership to exist.
And the visual actually proves that volatility is required for creation.
Yeah.
Because of the climactic action that takes place right in the middle of the frame.
This central action.
Right. The golden sun of the king and the silver crescent moon of the guide migrate toward the center, and they fuse together.
They collide.
Yes, and here's where it gets really interesting, because you might expect an explosion, or maybe an eclipse where one force consumes the other.
Which would be the standard visual trope.
Exactly. Instead, the collision of these opposing forces creates a single blinding point of gold light.
A blinding point of light.
Yes, and that light takes the specific shape of a stylized gateway.
It is a remarkable visual metaphor for Genesis. The source material outlines the message of this visual in stark terms.
What's the message?
This gateway of blinding gold light is officially titled the Sovereign Foundation. It is the literal and metaphorical entry point into the Albatt universe.
So you have to go through it.
You do. And the profound insight here is that this door does not naturally exist in the obsidian void.
It has to be created.
Yes. It is only forged, and it only opens when the intense friction between the authoritative king and the esoteric guide reaches a breaking point.
That friction is the key.
Exactly. You cannot enter this reality through pure logical order, nor can you wander into it through pure esoteric madness. Access requires the violent fusion of both.
That concept completely changes how you, as a potential entrant, must view this world. You can't just stumble into the Albatt universe.
No accidental tourists here.
Right. You have to pass through the exact razor-thin threshold where absolute authority and esoteric madness perfectly intersect.
It's a very specific entry point.
It is. But the visual architecture doesn't just leave you staring at a closed door. Just behind the blinding light of that gateway, hovering in the space beyond, the text details a central celestial compass.
A compass changes the entire dynamic of the void.
It implies direction.
Exactly. A gateway implies entry, but a compass implies navigation. It tells the seeker that passing through the door isn't the end of the journey.
It's just the beginning.
Right. It is the beginning of a highly intentional traversal. You are not meant to drift aimlessly once you are inside.
But this isn't a maritime compass pointing to magnetic north. The document explicitly shares the numbers this instrument uses to guide the way 1, 6, and 9.
1, 6, and 9.
Yes. Furthermore, the text dictates that this compass points toward future possibilities.
What's fascinating here is how this compass weaponizes mathematics. It introduces the concept of a highly calculated reality.
It's not random.
Not at all. The numbers 1, 6, and 9 are not arbitrary coordinates. While the foundational document doesn't bog us down in the complex esoteric math behind them, it establishes that they form a deliberate, precise navigation system.
The code.
Yes, the universe operates on a code. The madness of the moon and the authority of the sun have coalesced into an environment that is actually measurable.
That's a huge shift from the void.
It is. It suggests a deterministic framework where destiny can be charted, provided the traveler understands the significance of 1, 6, and 9.
That implies a universe governed by semantic laws, not just physical ones. The numbers mean something to the path of the individual.
Absolutely.
I want to shift our focus to how this entire conceptual package is framed, because the document breaks down the typography and branding described on the cover.
The branding is incredibly deliberate.
It is. Even the font choices are doing heavy narrative lifting. At the very top of the cover, Written in what the source describes as sharp, commanding gold letters are the words, "the sovereign foundation."
The aesthetic of that top text, sharp commanding gold, is unapologetically aggressive.
It demands reverence,
It really does.
which makes the text at the bottom so intriguing. Below the gateway, it reads Albatt Universe. And we should note the spelling the source uses here, Abatt Universe, all one combined word.
Right, it's stylized.
Very. But unlike the top, this bottom text is written in a clean, modern font. Looking at the layout, it seems like a deliberate typographical mirror of the dual pillars we just analyzed.
How so?
Well, the sharp, commanding gold letters at the top echo the energy of Helios, the authoritative king. It is absolute. But the clean, modern font at the bottom serves a totally different purpose.
That is a crucial deduction. The modern font at the bottom actively grounds the entire concept.
It modernizes it.
Think about how heavy and ancient the themes are: a cosmic void, a mad philosopher, a celestial compass. If the entire cover was draped in Gothic ancient script, it would feel like a relic.
Like something you'd find in a dusty archive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By utilizing a sleek, clean, modern font for the word Albatt Universe, the architecture packages these vast, esoteric ideas into something accessible and contemporary.
It brings it into the present.
It signals to the viewer that while this reality is built on ancient dualities, it is designed to be navigated by the seeker of today.
It effectively bridges the gap between cosmic lore and modern branding. It is an impressive display of communicating tone before the audience even reads a single paragraph of text.
It sets the stage perfectly.
And speaking of text, the document actually provides an internal observation. We get a direct quote from the Mad Philosopher regarding this specific visual anchor.
This quote is central to understanding the whole document.
Let's examine the first part of it, because it forces a massive perspective shift. The Mad Philosopher says, "You look at this cover, and you do not see a photo of a person. You see the architecture of existence."
This raises an important question about the role of humanity within this cosmos. By explicitly calling attention to the absence of a person on the cover, the Albatt Universe is making a profound statement of scale.
It's removing the human element.
Deliberately. Most media attempts to hook an audience by showing a face, a hero to project onto, or a villain to fear.
The human element is usually the anchor.
Right. But the Mad Philosopher is actively demanding that you look past the individual. By removing humanity from the visual threshold, the universe demands that you respect the grand structural scaffolding of reality before you ever concern yourself with the people living inside it.
You must understand the house before you need the tenants.
Exactly.
The architecture of existence. That phrasing elevates the entire concept from mere world building into something resembling structural theology.
It's a massive claim.
The visual isn't just an establishing shot, it is the skeleton of reality. But the quote continues, and it dramatically pivots how this architecture relates to the person viewing it.
The shift from the cosmic to the personal.
Yes. The Mad Philosopher states, "This image tells the seeker that their life path is not a coincidence. It is written in a golden code. The numbers carry weight, and the compass provides the direction."
That pivot is where the abstract philosophy becomes intimately personal. We instantly zoom from the impersonal scale of the cosmic void down to the granular reality of your daily existence.
It brings it right to the listener.
It does. The architecture isn't just floating in space, it is actively engaged with you. By stating that a life path is not a coincidence, the universe completely rejects the concept of randomness or chaotic chance.
Everything has a purpose.
Every action, every consequence is tethered to a deliberate structural design. It is all written in a golden code.
It takes the pressure off, in a way, while simultaneously making every choice feel incredibly heavy, and it recontextualizes the celestial compass.
Because the compass is the interface for that golden code, the, quote, reinforces that the numbers carry weight.
They aren't just symbols.
No, those digits 1, 6, and 9 are not just theoretical markers in the obsidian void. They are the heavy, meaningful signposts that guide your intentional path.
They dictate the journey.
The compass isn't pointing to a physical location in the Albatt Universe. It is providing direction for your specific encoded journey through it.
That transforms the blinding gold gateway from a simple barrier into a highly personal invitation. The visual anchor is essentially waiting for you to realize that you are part of its mathematics.
You are a variable in the equation.
Which brings us perfectly to the final lines of the Mad Philosopher's quote. It is brief, but it changes the posture of the entire document. It reads, "The gateway is open. We move step by step."
It acts as both a reassurance and an imperative. Let's consider the potentially overwhelming nature of what we've unpacked.
It is a lot to take in.
You have a void of heavy obsidian, an absolute authoritative king, an unpredictable mad philosopher, and a heavy golden code dictating your life path. It could easily induce a sense of cosmic dread.
It's definitely intimidating.
Yet, the mad philosopher leaves you with a deeply grounding thought. The gateway is open.
You are permitted to enter.
And more importantly, you are not expected to comprehend the totality of the universe in a single leap. You rely on the compass.
You rely on the numbers 1, 6, and 9.
Yes, we move step by step.
So what does this all mean? We started by staring into a completely blank canvas, a heavy void of midnight blue and obsidian.
A total lack of narrative noise.
Right. We witnessed the introduction of two monumental opposing forces, Helios, the authoritative king representing uncompromising structure, and the mad philosopher, the esoteric guide, representing unpredictable wisdom.
The dual pillars of existence.
We analyzed how the violent friction of those two pillars fusing together forged a blinding gateway of gold light, revealing a celestial compass.
The sovereign foundation itself.
And we learned that this compass promises to guide the seeker through an intentional reality, utilizing a golden code anchored by the numbers 1, 6, and 9. We have looked at the sovereign foundation.
The ultimate takeaway for you, as someone consuming this blueprint, is how it functions as a masterclass in visual storytelling and philosophical design.
It does so much with so little.
It proves that you do not need thousands of words of exposition to establish the rules of reality. By deliberately employing deep obsidian, dual conceptual icons, and precise navigational mathematics, this source document completely reframes the narrative experience.
It's an invitation.
It invites a seeker to look at their own traversal, their own life path, as something structurally sound and deeply intentional. It offers a universe governed by a golden code, waiting behind an open gateway, ready for you to take that very first calculated step.
Thank you for allowing us to decode this document for you. Exploring the foundational architecture of the Albatt Universe has provided a fascinating new lens on how worlds can be constructed from the absolute ground up, using imagery as the ultimate law.
But as you process the geometry of this reality, I want you to consider one final implication.
What's that?
The mad philosopher has assured us that the gateway is open and that the celestial compass will safely guide your life path step by step through the heavy numbers of 1, 6, and 9. But think back to the bedrock this code is built upon.
A fusion.
Yes. If this entire universe and the very door you are stepping through was forged strictly from the volatile collision of an authoritative king and a mad philosopher,
Oh, wait.
when you finally cross through that blinding gold light, whose version of reality will you actually be walking into?